Everyone, I'm in Kita and I'm in small group 7. The topic that we chose for our case study is the challenges of online group communication. We chose this topic with in mind that we were facing some challenges in our earlier group project, and we just wanted to figure out some solutions as to how we can do better. The first problem that we faced was unequal participation, mainly being me.
I know that unequal participation is really hard. I mean, everybody has their own challenges. And, sometimes, especially like when we first started, it was not sure who was going to do what.
Right.
So I think it seemed pretty unbalanced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I wouldn't really say it was
Right.
anyone's fault. It was kind of just like it was just a lack of organization from everybody. And
Right.
yeah.
And I'm like
Right.
super
And it was so hard.
active.
Yeah. And it was hard because we didn't know what she expected from us and how we were going to work together. We
hmm
just had no idea. Didn't
Mhm.
really have a roadmap
Yeah. And
basically.
like prior to our bigger group projects, we weren't really like setting up any expectations or like times. So it just made it way more difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we're doing like a better job this project just because we've been like getting on Zoom meetings, being more
hmm
interactive and all that. But that's, one of the solutions that we have
Yep.
figured out long term, just like being active and talking to each other, communicating, and then, being on Zoom meetings whenever we do get the chance to. But yeah, before this project, the last one, yeah, I was like super inactive. I didn't know what was going on and not really like communicating or anything like that. So I think some things have improved, obviously.
Oh
But
yeah, absolutely.
yep. And the second one being juggling personal responsibilities, like that too was like included within the whole unequal participation thing because school, job, and then I also own a business with two of my close friends. So there was a lot to do, and then just not enough time.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I definitely had a problem with just work because even with my within my like my other classes, I would have like an anatomy lab, and I was supposed to get off work like an hour prior to that, but sometimes like I would just not get off work within that time, and then I would be like 20 minutes late every lab. So yeah, it's definitely it affects like all of your classes, I feel like.
It
Oh,
truly does. Yeah.
absolutely. Then that's a big issue for me is just juggling that personal responsibility as well and learning to balance schoolwork with studying, with
hmm
work, with life, having a family and family obligations.
Oh yeah.
And I one of the things that I tried to do, and I've kind of worked on, has been having an agenda and trying to prioritize things that I know are really important. Like I know I have an exam coming up, or I know the days that I work, I'm working a 12-hour shift, so I those are hard days because I can only get a little bit of studying in,
Right.
and and then trying to make sure that I'm still a participant in my family life as well. It's all really hard.
Yeah, it's all just balance really, and like making time for each thing and like setting up and scheduling. I feel like organization is the biggest thing for all of these.
Oh, absolutely. And that brings us to that next problem, which was our time management. And like I said, juggling full time work and family, studying, just everything. Oh, and not to mention driving,
hmm
and because I live in Grove City and then driving to Newark, then my clinicals were in Mount Vernon and, just trying to make sure I'm accomplishing all the things.
Oh yeah, that's a
And
lot of back and forth.
Yep.
and one of the things that I had read, which I really hit me, was it said to know your weaknesses and your strengths. And, instead of beating myself up about my weaknesses, it was like, okay, I know that's a hurdle I have to cross. So I know I've got to dedicate like specific time. I know that I have to do this and I have to do that. But keeping my agenda, keeping my schedule, my written schedule, that's really been helpful for me.
That's good. Yeah, time management really is something I also struggle with a lot. Like I said, there's so many things going on and just not enough time during the day. And I just started recently going to the gym with my sister as well, and that takes like a few hours out
Yeah.
alone.
Yep.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
So
And
sure.
then the having distractions. So that was the next problem that I had was distractions. Whether it's worrying about my bills or finances or not being able to work enough or just background noise
hmm
and trying to keep my focus, making sure I'm getting to a place where I can just study and not have a bunch of backgrounds or things that are interrupting me. And keeping it, those keeping those distractions limited, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I even like sometimes when I know I need to get something done, like I'll just put my phone like on do not disturb and then I'll sit there for like an hour or two because I feel like every time I'll get like a message or notification, it just like messes up the entire flow of like your
I know.
work. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm so involved in social media as well. So I'm
Mhm.
like constantly on my phone checking like my social media, like, oh, what's going on? Did somebody say something in the group chat?
Yeah.
Like, am I missing out on anything? I start getting FOMOs. So I totally understand that. And I don't have it in my heart to like put my phone on do not disturb and just
Yeah.
sit there.
I know.
Oh, so
I know.
bad.
And then even the group chats at work, because that's how we communicate with each other is through Teams, through Microsoft Teams.
Mhm.
So if there's a crisis or a problem or something happening, it's like even when I wasn't at work, I was paying attention to it. Like who's doing what? What's happening? Why is that happening? I need to know what's going to happen when I go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And trying to limit that. So I think that makes a difference too, limiting that. So it's not
Mhm.
the focus. My work is not the focus when I'm at home.
Yeah.
She's
And
like, I'm not trying to miss out on the tea.
I feel like a lot of the distraction is even like just like not wanting to do the work, if that makes sense. Like it's just
Yeah.
kind of
Oh, yeah.
like you're like, I really don't want to do this right now. So then you kind of like move over to a different thing so that you don't work on what you're doing.
I'm gonna be honest, that's me like 90% of the
Yeah.
time. I just don't be wanting to do nothing. I'm just there like I just want to sleep. I just want to
Yeah.
like eat or something.
And I feel like that leads into I'm gonna move over to like the sixth problem, the lack of motivation. Because I feel like that's
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
the biggest thing, like just
Oh
struggling to
yeah.
stay focused on like goals and like procrastinating. And then I don't know, I feel like procrastination leads to like being overwhelmed. But then I don't know, it's kind of like a cycle, if that makes sense. Like you're like, oh, I'll do this later, and then you don't want to work on it at that time. But
Hmm.
then you
Yep.
procrastinate, and then it makes you even more stressed out because now you have less time to do the project or the
Exactly.
assignment.
They're trying to crunch all the work in
Yep.
within like the
Yeah.
next 30 minutes or so, and it's just not
Hmm.
possible.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. That's a fact. I
Hmm.
know it's I like the idea that like setting smaller goals and
Yeah.
having a consistent routine. I think that really helps. And I know this semester I did not start out with small goals. It was
Hmm.
this big, broad, open, I got to do all these things. And how am I going to do it? Instead
Mhm.
of breaking it down into smaller goals that I could actually manage.
Yeah. And even like just the factor of like taking breaks. Like I feel like you kind of just get used to the idea of taking like small breaks and then kind of just like not doing something that's going to distract you, like take a break from the assignment that you're doing or the studying that you're doing. And then I kind of like try to stay away from my phone because then the 5 minute break, all of a sudden it becomes like an hour and a half, and then you don't want to go
I
back to
felt
the work you're
that.
doing.
No, I felt
Yep.
that so bad.
Yeah. Yep. And I was just kind of looking over the things, and you were talking about studying with friends or joining study groups
Hmm.
um, that can help with accountability. I know some of the people in my program, they have study groups. They're like so connected with each other in their study groups. I tried to like join the study group, and all it did was confuse me. And I know that it's really important to have that network of people to help and to support you and that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. But I also think it has to be the right people. It
for
has
sure.
to
Yeah.
be the right group that
Mhm.
um, you can relate to, and they kind of share the similar problems or study habits, that kind of stuff as you do.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that can help support you, whether it's changing a habit, changing your study habits, and making it different. But also being supportive, because I think that's really important.
Yeah.
For
And I feel like
sure.
a big thing with that is not really forcing it, if that makes sense. So like if you feel like you want to work alone on a specific thing, like you don't have to get into groups all the time. It could just be something that you go and do when you're really struggling
Hmm.
or you feel like, you want to get out and work with more people. Like I feel like it shouldn't be something that
Yeah.
you force on yourself because then it becomes like a negative,
A
if that makes
chore. Yeah,
sense.
it's like a chore
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
like push yourself.
Hmm.
And then you're just not going to be focused on getting the work done
Yeah.
because you're too worried about everything else.
Yeah. And another thing that I had an issue with that with the studying with friends or with the group was comparing myself to them.
Hmm.
Because you know, they were all like A students, and you know, I'm a C and a B, you know, B at best. And um, I struggle more with studying and remembering things. And they were like getting 95s and, you know, on the quizzes and the test and everything. And here I am, I'm like going, okay, I'm a real life, you know, I've got lots of experience and real life stuff.
Mhm.
However, the book part and the remembering things, the remembering stuff for a test is harder for me. So then I spent my time comparing myself, and then it would affect my confidence level.
Oh yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah. Because I'm literally in a class full of people that I'm like, oh my God, like, how are they doing so good, you know? And I feel like I'm just like not doing as good. And it's kind of my fault too, because I feel like I don't put in as much effort, but at the same time, I'm so defeated, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I understand that.
yeah, and everybody, I mean, obviously everybody's at a different level and everybody works at a different pace. I feel like the best thing to do for group work is like even if you're working with people that are at different levels of understanding or like just have more time to work in general. It's more just everybody should help each other to get to the best that they can do. Like instead of just wanting to reach a certain like, oh, I want to get an A like this person, just do better than you did before, if that makes sense. Like
Mhm.
instead of getting a C,
Like,
you
Yeah.
get a B.
Yep.
like a
Yep.
gradual growth,
Yeah,
personal growth
exactly.
type of a thing.
Yeah. And that
Right.
makes sense too. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so next topic was a big problem for me with the technological difficulties.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, the thing is like it's just I don't know, a lot of it isn't really the technology, it's the software. Like that's the problem. Like kind of like how we had the issue with Zoom and like you couldn't record, so we had to have somebody else do it. I feel like a lot of things is that, and I don't know. It just
Right.
doesn't help when everything is against you with the softwares that we use.
Yeah. The good thing here is that we are in a group, so it's like if one person doesn't have it, the other person can do it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I really just could not record anything in my Zoom.
Yep.
So, now somebody else is having to do it. So
Hmm.
really just like the technology part also contributes a lot because you're like trying to figure out how everybody's like situation is with this whole like mobile or like laptop computers and all that. Sometimes it doesn't work out for one person and it'll work for the other.
Yeah. And it's even
Yeah.
more important with like an online class as well, like especially because we can only communicate through our technology, so it makes it even more difficult to do anything.
Exactly.
Right. Well, you've seen how like the our first project and how difficult it was. We
Hmm.
were trying to just meet in person, and we all are at different places at different times.
And even with like the tech difficulties, I feel like again it goes back to the factor of like organization and kind of setting up times and like making things to where we can submit earlier or have like a time to troubleshoot before we deal with those issues so that we won't submit late or we'll
Yeah,
have
or
time to fix the issue.
11 o'clock at night, and we have to have it in by midnight.
Yep. Definitely do that a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's been really hard trying to understand what we were supposed to learn from this class, and but now I'm kind of seeing some things. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, we work together to come up with some solutions, and we work together to come together on this project. And I
Right.
think those were the things that we were supposed to learn. It's not just all these different things like personalities and all this kind of stuff. It's about learning to work in a group.
Hmm.
How do
Mhm.
we solve things together, not just one person doing it?
Yeah.
Right. Figuring out communication and how we can talk to each other when, everything is not aligning or
Hmm.
like when our schedules are running different, still having or making the time to like figure out, how we're gonna be communicating, figuring out things from classes, projects, just in general. We've gotten much better, I feel like,
Oh
since
yeah,
like
100%.
I agree.
yeah,
I
our
agree.